Hi, Carl here. I'd like to tell you a story about something that happened when I was living at the beginning of my time in South Korea. I went to South Korea from New York in 1996, and between two different stints living in the country, I was there a total of 15 years, and I lived in many places. There's an area called Insadong, which is very quaint and beautiful. It's a traditional area as far as the venues that you can encounter there. It's not a traditional village from the olden days, but it's a place where only Korean language can be used on the signboards and where you can find, as well as some new items for purchase and enjoyment, usually traditional things, brush shops, traditional papers, potteries, and there's street food, of course, traditional Korean snacks. It's a very charming area. I lived in an inn after leaving my friend's house. I stayed with a friend when I first arrived in South Korea to get acquainted and to be among people so that I could find my way without too much strangeness and loneliness. It's a good way to get going in another country. And near this area, near Insadong, there's an area called Anguk. And this was the nearest train station if one doesn't want to get out at the Chongno Samga, the Chongno 3 district train station, and walk down the charming street or through some of the other alleyways to get nearer to the Anguk area. So um, I would get out at the Anguk station area to go home for the few months that I lived in Insadong. And on this particular night, I was on the north side of the boulevard, opposite the main street, Insadong Street, which runs from Anguk all the way to Chongno Samga, Chongno 3 district. It's a very quaint area. The Chongno Samga area has the Tapgol Gongwon, the Tapgol Park, or sometimes called Old Man's Park, which has some relief sculptures of Korean revolutions. It has a statue of a famous Korean, I believe, philosopher. The name escapes me at the moment. There are many benches, many trees, and nice walkways there. But back to the Anguk area where I was this particular night, which I should also tell you includes the boulevard that I'm talking about, which, if taken 5 minutes to the west, will bring you to the Gyeongbok Palace and Kwangwamunno, the Kwangwamun Boulevard, where the American Embassy is, the massive and impressive Sejong Culture Center, the statue of the famous Admiral Lee Sun-shin from the Imjin War period and the Hideyoshi invasion period. Anyway, it's quite an historical area. And in fact, in my later years in Korea, I was delighted to see that at the entrance of Insadong Street, a massive sculpture had been uh, placed there at the crossroads, one of which, if you take south, you can reach one of the Chogesa temples, the main temple, and many fine places to eat and tea shops. But anyway, this sculpture is a giant brush, a traditional brush, put in Korean, that was used for calligraphy and brush painting in Asia, in many countries. And it stands erect and bent at the base where the hairs are sculpted to look as if they're being drug in a circle, as one makes the Zen circle in Asian arts. And in the track of the path that we are to imagine was carved out by this tall, tall black brush, is a ravine into which rainwater falls, so it actually looks like ink. It's marvelous. It's such a wonderful part of Seoul, this area. So back to my story, I was on the Yukio. I was on this structure, which is a cross bridge or an overpass over many roads in South Korea. They have these in Japan too, which enable the pedestrian to climb a set of stairs, walk across the road, and come down at the other side without having to wait for traffic to stop or without risking traffic accidents and so on. They're enormous time savers, except for the fact that you have to climb the steps on both sides. But it gives you the sense that you can keep moving instead of standing somewhere, right? So I was up on the Yukio, up on the overpass, on my way home. I don't remember what I had been doing that night. I was probably out with friends, probably had a drink. Maybe I was coming from a class. Um, and I see on the other side, we're up about 30 or more feet, 35 feet up in the air, probably about, I don't know, 30 or 40 steps up on both sides. I see a man, and he's looking quite unstable, standing on the very top step, and apparently with his feet hanging over the edge of the top step. And I immediately think this man is going to fall because he looks sick or inebriated or both. So I run across to the other side, and I'm thinking, what am I going to do? Am I going to grab him? Am I going to ask him if I can help him? If I take too much time talking to him or if I startle him, he could fall down the steps. And these are not steps that you want to fall down. They are, as you would imagine, fortified of steel, um, with no soft surface on each step, and the risers being what they are in the West, probably 8 inches. And so I feel panicked, but I don't panic. And as soon as I get to him, I gesture to put my hand under his arm, but I don't touch him right away. And I say, you know, something like, Shilejiman Ajishi, uh, how do you say down there? I don't remember. Up is Wie. Are? No, I think that's Japanese. Anyway, I say to him, Kachi neri kaleo, which means, all of this that I said means, Mister, excuse me, Mister, can we go down together? I probably asked him, are you okay? Kenchanayo, neri kaleo. And I realized that I'm piecing together phrases the way I used to speak there, which wasn't fluently. And so maybe I'm saying something colloquially, which doesn't mean what I think it does, but the words I'm using do mean the things I'm saying. I just don't know if the whole phrase is correct. But he turned, I guess, because I remember I escorted him down the steps. And that gives one a really satisfying feeling. I mean, we all, from time to time, wonder what we would do if we experienced a car crash. Would we have the courage and the strength to pull somebody out of the car? Would it be wise to do so? Would it be unwise not to? Uh, would the car explode? If we experience violence, could we get involved? Could we intervene and help? What's amazing about moments like this, as you probably know, is you you spring into action and you act instinctively. Um, Indeed, even other species these days can be seen on the Dodo account on Instagram and on YouTube and on Facebook, where one animal is rescuing another animal, often from another species. So, this is a natural instinct of us to care about the well being of others because of our common humanity and what it means to us to experience the loss of this or the endangerment of it. I don't remember if I walked him to the corner. I probably did, and then asked him if he was okay. Maybe I got him into a taxi, which is an easy thing to flag in South Korea. Um, but I know that it filled me with an enormous sense of self satisfaction. And I'm not bragging. I'm sharing this story with you because I want to remember my history, especially as it transpired in South Korea. And lately, I'm forgetting a lot of it. Um, Thank the Dharma that I have so many photographs and journals, which are now in Tokyo, and I must go get them. But also with video transcription and voice, I know that I will be able to recall these events much better years later. And I want to share them with you because maybe they'll encourage you to reach out, to not be afraid to help someone, to reach out and thank someone who helped you. There were a few other events like that in my time in South Korea, and I look forward to sharing them with you in the future. I also may share with you some stories from my earlier life. I was one who once fell on my head. Uh, and at the time, I was too young and ignorant to realize how dangerous that could be. Um, Learning later that one can have a concussion, which I later realized I had or had had. Um, and how one's life can be changed by events that are suddenly upon us. Marcus Aurelius said something to the effect of the challenges in life aren't problems in themselves, but it is how we react to them which cause us the most trouble. Sorry, I've probably butchered that, but the meaning I think I conveyed properly. Anyway, um, here's to hoping that my storytelling skills will improve. I'm just telling them as I would tell them if I were out with friends having a cup of coffee. I'm not trying to turn these into dramas, so I hope you'll pardon me if I just sprung it upon you and I didn't follow any proper adventurous narrative so you can enjoy it more. If you have any ideas about how I can improve that, besides reading novels and short stories, send me a message. If you like what I'm doing at the right words, please think about sponsoring me on Patreon, um, or contacting me via email to discuss other ways to get involved. I'm also interested in having people on here as interviewees, and my style is going to be to ask you what you want to talk about, whether you're Buzz Aldrin or one of my best friends. I'm interested in your story, the things that you want to say, and you will find that this loquacious person will not be talking that much during the interview because it will be your time. I want to share the extraordinary nature of people with the world here. So I hope to see you next time. Thank you for listening and keep changing minds, one person at a time, beginning with yourself.